Hello and assalamu alaikum everyone. I am Kashif Kamran and I'm back with the second session of Look Inside the SBL December 22 Examiner Report, and we are exploring different aspects of the SBL Examiner Report. Today, we are looking at the second aspect whereby the examining team is telling us about analyzing the exhibit, how you should analyze the exhibit, and what is the importance of them in your success in SBL exams. So let's open examiner perspective on analyzing the exhibit. The very first thing the SBL examining team is telling us about analyzing the exhibit is in the bullet number 1. Candidates must spend sufficient time reading and assimilating the information within the exhibit, which makes up the case study material. So we know there are lots of exhibits. Sometimes they run into 5, 6, 7. And you need to read through those exhibits. You need to retain the knowledge of those exhibits, because after the reading and planning time comes the writing time, and then you need to write in a good answer. But the investment in reading and planning is critical. So examining team is saying that a sufficient time should be spent on reading and planning through the exhibits. And we know there is approximately 1 hour of a reading and planning time up to the June 23 exams, because post June 23 exams, that will go down because of some structural changes coming in SBL. But currently it's a 4-hour exam up to June 23, where you have 1 hour of a reading and planning time. And that's where you should spend sufficient time on the exhibits, on analyzing the exhibits. And you should copy paste relevant points into your word processor that can really help you in the later 3 hours to write a good answer. If you're not highlighting anything in the first 1 hour, you're not copy pasting anything in the first 1 hour, you are not utilizing the time in an effective manner. You are not analyzing the exhibits the way you should be. Number 2, often answers failed to make a sufficient reference to the exhibit or failed to make use of a full range of material in the exhibit. Now, when you're answering a question, examining team is saying you fail to make a reference to the exhibit. That means you're not connecting the information in the exhibit with your answer. And that is what we were looking for in the most competent student, integration. So that means there is a lack of integration between the answer and the exhibit. So the information from the exhibit should be in your answer, should be involved in your answer, should be blended in your answer to produce a good answer. But if your answer is not utilizing the information from exhibit and there is no evidence of that in your answer, then that would not be rated as a good answer or as an impressive answer for the marker checking your paper. Number 3, however, in the September sitting, that's September 22 sitting, it was encouraging to see that many candidates did make better use of exhibits than in the previous sitting. Candidates need to read the exhibits carefully while keeping requirements in mind. So when you're reading the exhibits, you should know the requirement. And this is the first thing, right? First, you read the requirements, then you open the exhibits, and then you start reading the exhibits. And wherever you get an information relevant to task 1, you copy paste that under the task 1 in the word processor. Wherever you get information relevant to task 2, you copy that under the task 2 on the word processor. So after the 1 hour has finished, in your word processor, you have dumped the information for task 1, 2, 3, 4 under the respective areas. And now you know, okay, I need to formulate an answer for task 1 using this particular information, which is dumped under the task 1. And that will really benefit you in putting an excellent answer. So keeping the requirements in mind. So first you read requirements, obvious, and then you go down reading the exhibit. And that's where the copy paste would become relevant, putting things under each task in the first 1 hour. Number 4, candidates need to remember that material from more than one exhibit may be relevant in answering each task, as was the case in this exam. For certain tasks, there could be very diversified information, or the information is coming from very diversified exhibits. For example, you're going through a task 1 or 2 or 3, and you see the number, the points for the task 1, 2, and 3 is coming from different exhibits. Sometimes it do happen in SBL exam that you have a certain exhibit dealing with the particular task, but at some time, we also see that 2 to 3 exhibits accumulatively bring the answer for one requirement. So when you're reading through the exhibits, you will find at times the points for a particular task very scattered throughout the case study. Sometimes you find a point for a relevant task within one exhibit, and that wraps up the answer. So you need to be careful in that case out. Then the next, the exhibits provides the material which underpin the applied points that candidates should be making. So examiner saying the exhibits provide you the material, and this material should be utilized effectively when you're writing in the answer. Your answer should be reflective of the information provided in the exhibit, that it will impress your marker. Include necessary background information and explanations to provide context to candidate answer. You must have seen exhibits in SBL. They do provide you a very good industry background or the business background, what the business is doing, what is the objective of the business, what are the problems of the business, what are challenges of the business, is the business family owned. They also give you the organizational structure of the business. They also try to tell you about the governance of the system. That all background information really helps you in producing a good answer. So you should ensure that the information you're getting across the company history or company background given in the case study is utilized effectively, and those facts are blended effectively in your answer. Number 3, help candidates to decide how to structure their answer, because the exhibits will tell you, write a report, write a letter, write a memo. So you know exactly how to structure things down. So when you're reading through the exhibits or reading through the task particularly, they do tell you how to structure your answer. Number 4, highlight the most important issues that answer should cover, because in the exhibit, examining team must have given you limited information about the organization, and that limited information, each of that limited information is critical. Each of that information should be utilized somewhere in your answer and to develop your answer in a very effective manner. So if you're ignoring most of the information in the exhibit, for example, you're writing an answer from task 1 from an exhibit 2, for example, and the exhibit 2 is producing the answer for task 1, but you just utilize 20% of that exhibit. That's wrong. At least utilize 70 to 80% of that exhibit information to blend a good answer for task 1 to produce a very good answer. The last thing, analyzing the exhibits. However, candidates must remember that merely reproducing the material from the exhibits without commenting, without analyzing, or without developing further is of no use. A lot of times the students just copy paste and say, okay, this is fine, and we've wrote the answer. No, you're copy pasting to remember in the first 1 hour. So when you come to the later 3 hours, you know, okay, this is the point I got from the exhibit. Now I need to rephrase this point. I need to explain this point. I need to develop this point. So a lone copy paste is not a good professional way of presenting the answer. But yes, a copy paste is important to retain when you're writing the answer. But that copy paste then should be evaluated, explained, and put into the proper answer so that you impress the examiner. So this is the analyzing of exhibit, where the examining team is trying to draw attention in the December 22 examiner report. And this is the second aspect I am covering from the SBL December 22 examiner report. And I hope these investigations is helping you once you play these videos. And I'm trying my best to keep them shorter so that you play them and play them in full. Your tutor Kashif Kamran signing off from the second session of analyzing the exhibits.